We're in the Mishna, again in Perek Gimel, in Pirkey Avot, and we're up to Rabbi Akiva, which is Mishna Yudchet. Rabbi Akiva needs no introduction to us. Ha'imato zeh Akiva sheshimcha holech misof ha'olam ad sof ha'olam. Rabbi Akiva goes from one end of the world to the other, meaning he's eternal and he speaks to everyone, and his teachings are universal and again always current. That's what sof ha'olam ad sof ha'olam means, from the beginning of the world to the end of the world. Sometimes people say you read things that are, so to speak, dated, right? Speaks about a certain time, but it doesn't have a quality of being able to last past that time. It's a little like the fashions in neckties or in clothing, constantly changing. Not only that, so that the past looks anachronistic. It looks to be old-fashioned, except for neckties, because never throw out your necktie because that fashion will eventually return. But Rabbi Akiva is Mesof Ha'olam ad Sof Ha'olam. I've discussed with you a number of times, just to refresh that the name Akiva, there's a discussion as to whether that is a Hebrew name or a non-Hebrew name. If it's a Hebrew name, all Hebrew names that end with that sound or have a hey at the end. If it's a non-Hebrew name, then it ends with an aleph. Now, the way that we spell Akiva, usually all the printers throughout the ages have spelled it with an aleph, as though it were a non-Hebrew name. But there's a famous piece in the Or Zarua, Rabbi Yitzchak Or Zarua in the 14th century in Austria, and he says that Akiva is a Hebrew name, and it should be spelled with a hey at the end and not with an aleph. And his proof is because of the posuk Or Zarua la Tzadik Li'ishe Leiv Simcha. So Or, the last letter Reish, is Rabbi. Zarua Ayin la Tzadik Kuf Yishrei Yud Leiv Beis Simcha Hey. That's Akiva with a hey. And that posuk refers to Rabbi Akiva. And that's why we say that posuk Kol Nidrei night. Because Yom Kippur is Rabbi Akiva's yahrzeit, so to speak. So even though in your text it's spelled with an aleph, you should know that there's a variant that spells it with a hey because of this posuk. And throughout the ages, this discussion exists, how to write Akiva in a ketubah, for instance, or when a get has to be written, a divorce. How do you spell it? And the halacha is you spell it the way the person spells it. So sometimes you get Akiva spelled with a hey, and sometimes with an aleph, and you shouldn't think that it's a misprint. It's just two traditions regarding this matter. In any event, Rabbi Akiva said, "Schok v'kalus rosh margilin es onam la'avera le'ervo." Now, we are all supposed to Ivdu Hashem b'simcha. We're supposed to be in a good mood. Judaism is a religion that you smile. And there's a satisfaction of being b'simcha. But schok is not simcha. Schok is pretty much joke telling, mocking. You know, I mean, there are two rules that I learned long ago that when you want to inject humor into what you're saying. So the first rule is that the humor has to be at your expense. It always has to be self-deprecating. Can't make fun of others. And the second one is that it has to be wholesome. It cannot be jokes that are smutty or that are not nice. And therefore, that's what schok is. Schok is to make fun of others, to mock others. And it only serves to diminish people instead of to increase people. So we find in the Chumash, by the Egel, it says, "Vayakumu litzachik." They got up to tell jokes, to be happy, to play. And the Gemara immediately connects that to Avot Zorah and the murder and sexual immorality, because that's where that kind of tzchok leads. And that's what Rabbi Kiva says, now, Kalus Rosh is not to view life seriously, not to take things seriously, which is also something in the nature of people. Not such a big deal. So the question in life always is, what do we consider a big deal? What's the ikar and what's the tofel? What's the important thing and what's the relatively unimportant thing? Where do we put our emphasis? And Kalus Rosh is the lack of the ability to discern that. He has a light head. By him, everything's the same. There are no important things. Life is to be taken very, very lightly. And that leads a person to doing things that are completely unacceptable in our tradition. And so we find that by Yosef, that she, Potiphar's wife, so what? No one's in the house. We can do whatever we want. And we find that connection in Chumash by Yitzchak. Avimelech looks out the window. He says he's mitzachek as Rivka Ishto. So that has that same erotic sense to it. And that's something we have to treat everything, especially regarding interpersonal relationships, of which intimacy is the highest level, has to be treated seriously and not treated mabekach. So what? It's not a casual thing. Part of the destruction of morals in our time is that intimacy is judged to be only casual. It's not judged with any seriousness. And if it's not judged with seriousness, so then margilin, it becomes habitual. And it becomes so habitual that one cannot even feel that one did anything wrong. If one repeats it often enough, the conscience of the person basically is dulled and stilled. It won't respond anymore. That's why Chazal say that sins that are often repeated, nasim lo keheter, no longer are a sin because he's so accustomed to it. He's convinced that that's not a problem. And people have the naive notion that if one commits a sin and is not struck by lightning within 10 seconds, so then somehow it doesn't really make a difference, which is a very immature, naive, simplistic view of heaven and of our relationship with it. So we are meant to treat life seriously and events in life seriously, and to be in good humor at the same time. And that's a trick that requires something. And Chazal pointed out that Hillel HaZoken had that quality, that whatever happened, he was b'sever ponim yofos. He had a smile on his face. He was in a good mood. So a lot of things happen that don't put you in a good mood. And we go through a period of time now where, to put it mildly, it is not easy to be happy or to be satisfied or to be in a good mood. But you have to be able to look at it. I saw it was a banquet given, I don't know, must be 7, 8 years ago, maybe more, in honor of Lord Rabbi Dr. Lord Jonathan Sachs, to commemorate his retirement as chief rabbi. And the guest speaker was the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, who spoke very well, very beautifully. I imagine that's his job to speak. But he said a very interesting comment. He said, I think the chief rabbi and I share the following job description. Our job, the Prince of Wales and the chief rabbi, our job is not so much a position as it is a predicament. And there's a lot of truth in that. But in that one quip, he really summed up the problem. The Prince of Wales has to take life seriously. When he didn't, he's not going to be the king. But on the other hand, he has to be able to have a sense of happiness, a sense of satisfaction about him. So that's what Rabbi Akiva says here, that the person that's chok, that's always making jokes, and the jokes are not at his expense, he's a mocker. And we all know that mockery is a terribly powerful weapon. It can diminish the person or the event being mocked in a permanent fashion. And Kalas Rosh, the lack of seriousness, lack of judgment, that's really what it is. And that's what Yosef told her. How can I do it? And look at the consequences that'll happen. So who thinks about consequences? Certainly not in the heat of passion. So that's Rabbi Akiva's message here. Now, Rabbi Akiva, Chazal tell us the first period of his life was not a Talmud Chacham. And in fact, he didn't like Talmidei Chachamim. He said, "Yisi noshchon kechamor." I would have bitten him like a wild mule. So he knows what it's like. He knows where it's coming from because he was once in that position. It's easy to mock a Talmid Chacham. It's easy to mock Judaism, to mock the mitzvahs. One of the great weapons of the Haskalah and of later secularism was to mock us. There were plays and novels, bitter mockery. And that leads to consequences, as we see. That's Margininus Autumn Lervo, right? And everything can be mocked. Nothing is sacred. And that's Kalas Rosh, the lack of seriousness. The fact that one is lightheaded, that one never deals with the consequences of one's behavior. So that's something that we should all warn ourselves about. That's the idea here in Avot, is that these are guideposts. So somehow to be in good humor, but not in mockery. To be in good spirits, not at the expense of others. And to always be aware that there are things that have to be taken very seriously and cannot be treated with kalus rosh, with lightheadedness, as though there will be no consequences and nothing will really come from transgressions or failings. Now he continues. Masora siog la Torah. The idea here is that the Torah is balanced. The Torah has erected fences, so to speak. It has created limitations. And the limitations can be very widespread, but you have to be within those limitations. The whole idea of Erevin on Shabbos that we're allowed to carry is because we have limited the space. We've changed the nature of space. So what previously was a street or an area, a neighborhood that one could not carry in, according to the Takona of Shlomo HaMelech in construction of an Erev, we have limited it. We've enclosed it. Now we enclose it even with almost imaginary fences. A lechi, a post, a string on top. But that is sufficient to change the nature of the space. So now it becomes a space that I am allowed to carry within. That's a powerful concept. Now, you have to have these limitations, because if it's unlimited, anything that's unlimited, I've also said anything that's T-O-O is not good. Some people are blessed, as we will see here, with wealth. Too much wealth is dangerous. Too much beauty is dangerous. Too much intelligence is dangerous if there's no limitation to it. If there is no line, so to speak, drawn that the person will not be willing to cross and therefore will be willing to limit it, but then it has all of the potential that it's supposed to have. So when it comes to Torah, Torah also has a limit, Rabbi Akiva says, Masoros, tradition. So there are different kinds of Masoros that are involved here. There is one Masorah, the Torah is written without Nekudot, without vowelization. So when you see the letter, the word, you can read it as you wish. How do I know to read it correctly? How do I know what the Torah means to tell me? I know that through Masoras. The Masorah that we have as to the punctuation and vowelization and the cantillation, the trop, that tells us what the Torah is saying. You take that away, the Torah is a blank book. You can be whatever you want it to say. And without that limitation, then the Torah itself is unbounded. Also, part of the limitation of Masoras is there's a tradition. Somebody comes up and he says, I have a new pshat in the Gemara. I have a new interpretation of this halacha. I'm going to make it fit the times. I'm going to make it that somehow it will be current and attractive. If that goes unchecked, so then you end up with nothing, as is the tragedy in parts of the Jewish world today that are going headlong to their own self-destruction. So what's the break? The break is Masorah. Tradition. Tradition's important. Tradition, we have to fit into a certain box, so to speak. Now, the box is very big, but the box has limits. And without tradition, we are lost, completely lost. That's why we find in Halacha that the Ramah, Reb Moshe Isserlish, the great posek of the 16th century, the great posek for Ashkenazic Jewry, he always quotes, "Ve'onu kach noagim." This is what we have as a custom. This is our tradition. And if it's our tradition, it's our tradition. And that colors the halacha. And there are times when tradition and halacha almost contradict. The Gemara in Beitza points out for us that there are times that minig mevatel halacha. The tradition is greater than the halacha. We leave it alone because there's a belief that has been proven true over all of the centuries that there's an instinct within the Jewish people. Instinctively, we do the right thing, even if we didn't think about it. And therefore, if this is how the Jewish people behaved, so then it's not easily to be erased. It's not something to be cast aside. The first change in the Siddur made by the Reform in the late 1700s was that they removed the Yikum Purkans, which are in Aramaic and are a prayer on behalf of the judges and scholars of the Jewish community of Bovel at the time of the Gaonim. So I can understand, I'm living in 19th century Berlin. What do I have to do with anybody that lived in Baghdad in the 7th century? And I say a prayer for him. He's long since gone. And there's nobody there now that I have a connection to. So we just eliminated it. I cannot say that is the turning point in Jewish history. But when you start eliminating, there really is no end to that either. And Masorah is what binds us not to eliminate. Now, not all customs that we have are, so to speak, holy or correct. There are differences of opinion regarding certain customs. But those who observe them should not be mocked. And those who don't observe them should not be pilloried for being unfaithful, because that's also a tradition. So the Masorah is the Shogla Torah, limits the Torah itself. You could have great Talmudic scholars, that it's the difference between a yeshiva, so to speak. I'm generalizing here, which I don't like to do, but I'm going to make this point. Between a yeshiva, let's say, and a graduate study in Talmud at the academy here in Israel, that the Academy for Hired Advanced Jewish Studies. The academy is not bound by Masorah. Therefore, texts can be changed. All sorts of things can happen. And out of it comes from the Wissenschaft das Judentum that Zunz created in Berlin, came out only disaster. And the yeshiva is more concerned with the Torah itself. It's bound by the Masorah. And most of the time in the yeshiva, the Talmidim, who later will become the teachers of the next generation, basically follow the lead of their teachers themselves. In today's world today, Rabbi Soloveitchik lives through the hundreds of his students, every one of whom took a piece of him. But I think we can all say that no one took all of him. But everyone took a piece of him, and they teach. So Rabbi Soloveitchik is still teaching. And when Rabbi Soloveitchik is still teaching, Rabbi Chaim Brisker is still teaching. And when Rabbi Chaim is teaching, the Netziv is still teaching, and the Gaon is still teaching. And the Chassidus is the same thing. That's Masorah. Without the Masorah, we have really nowhere to go. That's a very, very important lesson. I remember when we raised our children in Miami Beach, so they were unfortunately the rabbi's children. So they had restrictions that their classmates did not have. And my wife always used to explain it to them and say, she didn't say, this is against Jewish law. Or, she said, this is the way our family behaves. Our family has a tradition. We have a structure. And what our family does, that's what we're proud of. And that's how Masorah is passed from time to time and generation to generation and place to place. We make the bracha on Nisim, Shoso Nisim Lavoseinu, Bayomi Maheim, Bazman Azeh. What are they talking about? I understand Bayomi Maheim in the Beis Hamikdash, the Hanukkah menorah burned for 8 days. My menorah doesn't burn for 8 days unless I put in oil. Hormones keep on arising. So what's Bazman Hazeh? Bazman Hazeh is the Masorah. Because of the Nisim that happened by Yomi Ma'aim, I have a Masorah Bazman Hazeh as to how to behave. what perspective I should have on things, how I should follow things in the world, what sense of greatness I have to have within myself. So that we say David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, and Moshe Rabbeinu Chai V'Kayam. And no one, it all is here. That's Rabbi Akiva, Mesov Olam, Mesov Olam. It's all because of Masorah. Torah without Masorah withers. Does not have a lasting quality. Again, all of Jewish history shows us this. In every generation, Omdim Aleinu L'Chaloseinu is not only said about our external enemies. Every generation has new people, new ideas, new programs. We see, just as a side comment, what's going on in the United States today is the rejection of the Masorah of American life. We had a tradition about America. And now that tradition, no. There's no tradition. Whatever is now, now. So I'm not in favor of having a statue of Robert E. Lee in my front room. But Robert E. Lee is part of the American tradition. And he served as a break against lawlessness and wildness, and as an example as to how secession was wrong and slavery was wrong. When you tear down his statue, you're tearing down tradition. You're doing it in the name of a higher cause, which you have decided is higher. And most of these people are in their 20s. They want free college tuition, fine. But what will they be in their 40s and 50s? Without a Masorah, it's not going to go. It's just not going to go. That's a tremendous danger. And here in Israel, Baruch Hashem, can't tell you how good I feel being here, even though I'm pretty bored with myself. You have no idea how boring one yourself can be. But we have a Masorah here. We have a tradition, how to behave in Eretz Yisrael, what Eretz Yisrael is, why we're here, how we got here. As long as that tradition is alive, so then that it's pretty much a guarantee of our permanence here in the land. In the Kriyas HaTorah for the Tisha B'Av, it says, "V'noshamtem ba'oretz." You became old in the land, meaning, oh, that was then, but not now. Well. The Baruch Shalom has his way of showing that then is now too. And without the anchor and rock of tradition, study alone is in nature. Words and what the meaning is. You'll always see your teacher in front of your eyes. That's your tradition. What will my teacher think of me? That's a very, very powerful tool, one that we should all adopt. We should see ourselves in that light. All right, we'll continue with this Mishna next week, God willing. We have a few other things that Rabbi Akiva has to say to us. So again, I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. And Emir Hashem, I have another 9 days to go in this quarantine. I hope to return to the shul. Once the age limit was removed, so then I'm a young man again. So I'm going to try and come, Emir Hashem, and I hope you will as well. I think later we'll always continue with some sort of Zoom, but there's nothing like personal. And I hope that we'll be able to have personal shiurim very soon. Thank you for watching and listening. Kol Tuv Sela. Have a great week. I want to especially thank Morty Tarragon for setting this up for me. I am technologically in the 19th century, but somehow we were able to get it going. I'm glad that we were. Thank you again. Kol Tuv Sela.
Thank you, Rabbi, so much. It's amazing that the Rav, who is in the 19th century, has produced more videos than anybody else that we know that are mass-produced across the whole world. It's an amazing thing. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to put everyone on, I'm going to unmute everybody.